Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 27 of the 40 Days of Hope, a message today that God can do extraordinary things for ordinary people. I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend Manda Wilson tonight. She just has an amazing relationship with God, and every time she speaks, I always just learn so much from her. But, she shared this story a few years back, and it's something that really, really strengthened my faith when I heard it, and a story that I often think about, actually. I can't wait for you to hear it and listen in, guys. Thank you for sharing with us tonight, Manda.
Hi, I'm Manda, and Bernie's just asked me to share a story of mine, which I think is a really good example of how sometimes God does extraordinary things for ordinary people. It really isn't about our merit or what we've done. It reflects who He is and His character. So I've been really lucky. There's a few things that God's done that have been kind of amazing, but this one really stands out to me as being quite extraordinary. So let me share you a story. So a number of years back, my husband John and I were approaching our first anniversary, and I'm quite a sentimental person, and I really enjoy reminiscing on things and celebrating things. So I'd really been looking forward to this anniversary, partly because of that reason, but also because at that time I was working in a job I was finding really stressful and emotionally heavy. It was a project on suicide prevention and mental health awareness with teenagers. And I'd been working really hard for a number of months and was just really drained. I just needed a break away from stuff to do with mental health, and I wanted just to focus on positive stuff and just enjoy being with John and back somewhere that was special to us, because we actually went to Scotland, up to the area where we got engaged in. So anyway, I've been looking forward to this trip, and up we went to Scotland to this remote B&B. And we had very simple plans for the day. We'd saved a bottle of champagne from our wedding, and we wanted to have that with breakfast, and then just do a few simple things around Aviemore, one of which was going up, or the main one was going up the mountain railway that they had at the time, and then have a meal together in the evening. The day started really, really well, and I was just so full of joy and gratitude and anticipation of being with John. And one of the things we really wanted to do was to reminisce through the day. So at the different times that were passing, just to think back and enjoy thinking back about what had happened at that time on our wedding day. So anyway, the day started well. We cracked open the bottle of champagne at breakfast, and seeing as there's nobody else in the B&B and we weren't going to drink very much of it, we invited the owners, a lady and a guy, to come and join us to have a small glass. And that was where things started to go a little bit wrong. As I said, it was a remote place, and clearly the lady there was really lonely and quite troubled, because she proceeded to basically go into great detail about the complex health problems of her mum and her dad. So one of the parents had depression and dementia and was living in a separate residential home to the other parent, who had just gone through some really horrendous operations to do with bowel cancer. And there we were eating our breakfast, and she went into incredible detail, and particularly about the bowel operations, which is not a great accompaniment with breakfast. And I'm quite, as I said, quite sensitive to people's emotions and things like that. And we've just felt trapped at breakfast. This went on for nearly an hour. And in fact, the lady's husband on a couple of occasions tried to, change direction of the conversation and try and stop her, but she just kind of bulldozed on, really, clearly needing to talk, which would be great on an average day. I mean, I think it's important to hear people when they're experiencing troubles. But on that day, it just really wasn't the great timing or appropriate during breakfast. So by the end of breakfast, that feeling of joy and anticipation that just melted away, and I just, I felt her anxiety, and my head was just filled with horrible details. And we were an hour later on what we'd intended to do. So we headed off anyway as quickly as we could to Aviemore, to discover that we'd missed out on the last tickets for the mountain train. So that was out of the window. And not being able to decide on what other things we were going to do, we ended up walking around a lake. But by that point, we were just, I was feeling so frustrated that we hadn't dealt with the situation better. We were quite new to communicating with each other and understanding how each other deals with difficult situations like that. And I think we deal with it a whole lot better now. But at that time, we just were in a bit of a communication funk, really. John couldn't understand why I couldn't just snap out of it and why it mattered so much to me. And I couldn't shake, I suppose, the sadness and the dark feelings that were coming up as a result of hearing this lady's story, as well as, uncomfortably, anger at her for the fact that she'd felt it was appropriate to share that for such a long period of time on our anniversary breakfast. So, yes, we ended up having a massive argument whilst walking around this lake. And the rest of the day didn't go any better, really. We went out for a meal and that was a bit of a flop. And, our difficulties in communication extended into the next day, where we really just weren't talking to each other, and I wasn't enjoying that time at all. And I really felt, if I'm honest, robbed of what I'd been looking forward to. And I knew that I just couldn't get that back. I couldn't get that day back. It only happens the once. And I was really disappointed and really upset. At the end of that day, the day after our anniversary, we were actually leaving the B&B and heading off to another B&B on the Isle of Skye. And as we were making our journey to the Isle of Skye in late afternoon, I was praying to God, and I remember just sort of saying I didn't know how to get the joy back. I didn't know how to restore things between John and me. I didn't know how this situation was going to be redeemed. So I was just, praying to God about it. And then it was not long after that that we were approaching the iconic castle of Eilean and it was at the time of sunset. And so as we were approaching it, John did something rather romantic. He pulled the car over into the car park and parked up. He'd done exactly the same thing the day after we got engaged. So it was a romantic thing, even though I wasn't feeling romantic at all. So anyway, we got out of the car, and at that time of the day, the castle was closed, no one was in the car park, but we could see there was a guy down by the visitor centre. So we just got out and we're taking a couple of photos, and we were wandering around, and then both of us were aware that we could hear music. Well, I knew I could hear music, John could hear music, but we were kind of at separate places at that time. John went ahead and I could hear him speaking to the guy saying, "Oh, hi, we can hear music. Where's it coming from? What's going on?" And the guy said, "Oh, it's some musicians. They're over on the castle grounds. They've just finished filming a video." And John went, "Oh, who are the musicians?" And the guy said, "The piano guys." At which point, my ears pricked up and I went straight over and I said, "The piano guys." And he said, "Yes, do you know them?" And I said, "Yes." So this day, or yesterday, a year ago yesterday, I walked down the aisle to one of their songs, "How Great Thou Art," crossed with "The Mission," which is a really unusual choice. And he said, "That's amazing. Why don't you come and meet them?" So we unlocked the gate, and he escorted us over the bridge, because Eilean Donan's got this lovely bridge over some water, and the castle grounds is out in the water with like mountains behind, and he took us over this bridge and introduced us to the piano guys, who were absolutely lovely. I briefly told them our connection and why I was so excited, and they shared with us that actually it was just incredible timing that they were there then. They had tried to book the trip several times before and had to stop for problems getting over here and then problems with weather, and they'd actually planned to video the day before on our anniversary, but had been rained off. So it was just the most incredible, perfect timing, perfect weather, and in a significant place to both John and me. So I just said, I can't believe it. That's just amazing. What a coincidence. And the guy I was speaking to just looked at me and said, it's no coincidence, which was brilliant because I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I knew it was a gift from God. And, you can't make these things up. It was just phenomenal timing. So if you want to see that video, it is on YouTube. Look up the piano guys, and the film is Amazing Grace crossed with Fight Song. So if you look at that, if you watch that, you will see the incredible sunset that I've described and what we experienced there that day at Eilean Castle. And from that point on, I mean, with such an incredible act of God, in that time. I mean, John and I had an amazing rest of our holidays. We were just on cloud nine that God would do that for us. And it really restored that whole situation to us. So I believe it's just a brilliant example of how sometimes God does do extraordinary things for ordinary people.